supervisor of educational technology in the K-12 district. East Brunswick is a K-12 district in Middlesex County. It's pretty large, about 7,000 or 8,000 students. We're going to be talking about AI. I know I've done this before, but I think it's a really important subject. So Herb, I'll talk to you. What is generative AI for those who are watching this and may not know?
Oh, well, I just want to start by thanking you for having me here. It's great to see you again and great to be here with everybody. So, when we talk about generative AI, we're talking about AI that, an AI tool that can generate content. So you type information or a question, you prompt the AI bot, and what it will then do is it will generate content. Literally, it's in the name. So it could be text, it could be images, it could be audio, depending on the level of the tool that you're using. It's AI that can create something.
Okay, you used the word tool, which I really like because you and I discussed this before we went on it. We're looking at AI as a tool for, I'm not giving you the answer to my question, but how should we look at AI? Is it as a tool?
Absolutely. That's one of the first things when I present to teachers. I've gotten a chance to talk with other administrators about this at the PSA and different school districts.
PSA is the Principals and Supervisors Association.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, great people there and very innovative group. And we have a lot of great conversations about this and many other things in leadership to make schools better for kids. But I talk a lot about you thinking of AI as a tool, same way that you think of a wrench or a hammer or a screwdriver to fix a certain problem. AI is a similar type of tool to fix other problems or to find solutions or to be more creative when you're trying to create lessons or change the tones of your email. Leveling text for readers who have different levels that are required. We have multiple needs in any classroom, K to 12, and students come to the table and come to their desks with different learning needs. And AI is one of the many tools that we can use to help make sure that they're learning as best as they can. Teachers bring a lot of passion, a lot of energy. Certainly in East Brunswick, we have the best teachers. I know we got great teachers all over the state, but I guess my bias there is a good one for our folks there. And so they bring a lot of great energy, but kids are coming to the table and to their desk with more challenges, and AI is one of those tools that can help them, meet the needs of all learners.
I just want to, and you and I have discussed this, but for this audience, to you look as a work partner or a thought partner, almost like an aide, a teacher's aide, or not just a teacher. And I think the other important thing is AI is here. So I know some people are like, I'm not sure how to deal with it. I can probably guarantee you that someone's using AI, either a student or a teacher, in every single building, whether you have an AI policy or guideline or not.
I agree.
So how do you look at it? Is it a thought partner?
I think thought partner and work partner. I think it's depending on the task that you're trying to accomplish or the goal that you're trying to hit. I think that there's times where you're going to need it to be a work partner. I think, when you're trying to refine emails, take a very long email and condense it down, or check it for tone, because we've all sent one of those emails and then you read it after, or you receive an email and you're like, ooh, maybe that didn't strike exactly the right tone I was looking for. That's more of looking at it as a work partner, helping you, structure your agendas for a meeting a little bit better, or take a lesson plan and find ways to make it more creative, or make sure that the timing is going to work out as best as you can to maximize the learning opportunities. When you think of it as a thought partner, I think it's taking that lesson plan, for instance, and saying, what would be another way for me to ask this question or to start this lesson, and provide 5 questions to open up this lesson based on all the information you see there, and it will give you back questions, and you can say, oh, give me 3 more like number 2. And then you have that question, you go, oh, that's I had a really good question before, but now I have like a great question to start with. So that's one of those examples, I think, where we can use it as a thought partner. And the work partner piece, I think, is more for what I like to say is like the grunt work, like the do the paperwork, PLAFs and IEPs and emails and things of that nature, which are important, but those are sometimes the things that trip us up or take time. They take a lot of time because you want to take the time to make sure you're doing it the best that you can.
So it's a tool, but East Brunswick, at least from what I can gather, took it as a comprehensive look for everyone, not just use this. You formed working groups to take a look at it. Just explain the process for bringing it into the entire district, not just one person or two people using it here or there.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the district, I had to give our superintendent, Dr. Valesky, assistant superintendent, Dr. Boley, the Board of Education credit for creating this position. It did not exist until last September. And through some administrative reorganization during the 2023 summer, this position was created. And what they said, when I interviewed for the job, I basically said, I think that we need to have a K-12 vertically articulated vision, the same way we build curricula, in math, science, and every subject area, and it builds on top of one another. We have to approach this the same way. And one of the ways that you have to do that is you have to bring people together. It can't be a top-down approach. And, that's one of the things. I've had great mentors in the district over the years that have said, get smart people in the room, ask them the right questions, and then listen. And then, that's how you're going to get the best answers. And it's how you're going to meet the needs of all learners, but also meet the needs of your staff, because ultimately they need to be supported if this is going to work. So what we did was we have grade structures where our elementary schools are K-4. We have an upper elementary 5-6 building, 7, 8, 9 junior high, and a 10 through 12 high school. So what we did was I asked the supervisors, the building principals, assistant principals, give me the names of some folks to hear. I have some ideas. I've been blessed to work in East Brunswick for 19 years, so I have a lot of great connections with folks. But I wanted to put together teams of people who, yes, we're tech savvy and we're smart, but we have smart people across the board, K-12. But I also wanted some folks who maybe were skeptical, but were positive in their skepticism, or optimistic, or looking for solutions. So putting together,
Had an open mind.
Right, we're open-minded. Thank you. And I think that's that's,
I did
that's
that
the
through
key.
AI.
Yeah. Well done, Ray. Well done. So you bring a group of open-minded folks that are smart together, and then we talk. I would sometimes in some of the meetings I would present an article or research, or I'd say, we use this the stoplight, which I know we're going to talk about with the AI use scale, some of the early versions of that, and brought that to the secondary group and talked about, well, what would this look like for East Brunswick? At the elementary level, we had a lot of really great discussions, and we talked about things. Basically, we came to a conclusion that this is going to be a teacher-facing situation where we're going to work with teachers first to make sure that they're comfortable, they learn how to use it, and it's not appropriate for students to jump right in and open the floodgates. So through the course of those conversations last year, we were able to have a better idea of what was going to be right coming into this year, and that process is continuing. I was just emailing our groups to welcome them back for this year. We have a lot of great information from the first marking period that we're going to be able to build on, and take a look at the updated guidelines that we've come up with, the different PD opportunities and things that we need to do, and that process is ongoing. So the working groups, I would recommend for any district, and I've talked with some other districts about this, forming committees or power teams, or however you want to, whatever fits the culture of your district. Get the smart people, get the open-minded folks together, ask the right questions, and then proceed from there.
So do these groups look at professional PD, professional development opportunities for particularly their grade level? Do they look at vetting which AI platforms they would use? Is that some of the things that they looked at?
We talked about all of those things. We talked about which tools were safest. So we kind of set up a process where these are the tools that were approved for pilot use. And we started with before Gemini came out with Google, we had Copilot from Microsoft was the tool that we piloted last year. ChatGPT was the big name. That's the Gen AI tool that kind of started this whole thing in November of 2022. Claude AI is another very popular tool in the AI community. Some of my friends, my fellow nerds, I like to say, is a positive term. We're all nerds here. That's a tool that they really like and has a great interface. Magic School. There's a number of tools out there that have really. Perplexity is another one where it's like, look, we wanted to give people permission to start using the tools, experimenting. So we talked about those things. We talked about, what should professional development look like? And that's something that's always a challenge to find time to make sure you're doing that. This year I've been able to go into department meetings and some building meetings. I have that planned for the rest of the year to make sure that we're talking to staff directly. So those are things that the working groups, we talked about every topic, for the research-based, what's good for kids, what teachers need, how to talk to parents about this, and, looking at it holistically.
So it seems to me, at least that gave some structure to the building as to some agreement as to how AI would be used in grade 5, 6, whatever grade it is, and the teachers had buy-in to that decision-making process.
Absolutely. I think that that's important. I think you have to bring, teachers are every day they're the ones with the kids. They have the most contact time with students. They know what students need. From my perspective, I look at things outside the bubble, as I like to call it sometimes, and we want to bring those best practices and things that match with our culture, what our goals are, and what our needs are. But our teachers are fantastic, and they know what their students need, and I think that that's critically important. Whatever issue you're looking at within schools, you have to bring teachers together, and it has to be a team. It has to be a team approach. It's central office, the administrative team, building leaders, and the teachers and staff as well, and students. You can't wait for
I'm going to get into that
absolutely.
in a minute. But before I do that, did some teachers say, "Oh, now I see how I can use this as part of this"? Maybe they learned from another teacher or something. But did some of those people have it changed their mind a little bit?
Yeah, I think we had some folks in some of the working groups, and so we had 4 separate working groups, which was great for me to. Sometimes those conversations would build off of each other. Like the junior high team would look at something, and then I'd go to the high school, or the upper elementary team, and then our K-4 elementary team. And so for me, it was great because I got to see all this, and then bring it together, bring things back, and connect the dots K-12, and get that great feedback. And in some of those instances, there were people that were a little more skeptical, and maybe came in and didn't really think there was going to be something that they could use right away. I think that great PD, or whatever the topic, it's always you provide teachers an opportunity to do something like that minute or that next day. Like, can they use it? And with AI, I think it's pretty simple to find a problem that you have and a way that this can help you solve that problem or make it better as a result of the use of appropriate use of AI.
So we've been discussing mostly the teachers, how they can use it, but we have the students too.
Mm-hmm.
They have to have guidelines as to when, and we'll be talking about that. What about the parents? Because I'm sure the parents are probably a little bit, they may not be as educated on AI, or some of them might not. Some of them may be really good at it too.
Yeah, our parent community is fantastic in East Brunswick. I've had some parents reach out. And I also live there, which is great. So I get to see parents at soccer and with events with my kids and things like that. And some of our parents are really, some of them work in ed tech or technology industries and things like that, and bring a pretty good perspective with AI. And others do other kind of work and have had really good questions. I think that the key at the end of last year, collecting all this information from students. We had student surveys. I met with the principals council at our high school, which is made up of all the captains and all the club presidents and what have you. I met with them multiple times. I sent surveys out to our students at the junior high as well as the high school. What we found through that process and working with the teachers and our administrative team was that it was time to talk to parents as well and find out, give them some early access to some things and tools that they could use. So we hosted a parent university in May toward the end, just after Memorial Day last year. And we had a really strong turnout for the event. And that's a busy time of year, getting closer to graduation and things. But the parents were phenomenal. They had really great questions. They were really excited to try out some of the tools. Some of them brought computers and tried it out. So I would say for any district that's looking to do this is, you've had to find a point person, someone who can talk to these pieces and these points, and then have an event where the parents can come. And some parents just want to listen and learn, and others want to have on their phones or on their devices and start using it. And that was a big moment for us to expand our coalition and our understanding of what we need to continue to talk about and make sure we're equipping students, teachers, parents, the community to take a hold of AI, not be afraid of it, but to embrace it and use it to make their lives easier and across the board, not just in school, but in their daily lives.
So what about the students? Okay, the parents. I love the idea of the parent. And you did it again this fall, right?
Yeah, so we did. We just had on October 8th and October 16th. I know I was joking. I was competing with the Yankees and the Phillies and the Mets playoff runs there, but we had 2 parent nights, one for secondary and one for elementary. And we also live streamed the event, which was great for parents who, like I said, busy parents have, I was running my son to soccer practice and then running over to our upper elementary school for the event. But that was a great way for parents to continue to learn. I was able to drill down into more specific examples, how to communicate with the property manager, how to work on emailing with your teacher, your child's teachers, how to help your child do their homework without doing it for them. math is one of those things that can be complex, but it's any subject area. And Gen AI tools will break down step by step so that you're helping your child, but it's not doing the homework for them. So we talked about things like that, and our parent community, had really great questions. Once again, as they always do, have been very supportive, and I think we're starting to feel more comfortable with the new reality, that AI is here and how to use it to our advantage.
I want to just follow up because you mentioned how a parent can use it to communicate with the teacher. Say, maybe they have a complaint about something that happened with their student, with their child, to check the tone of it. But that can also work the other way too with teachers, because sometimes we get a communication, we send something off right away, and we probably shouldn't have hit the send button.
Right. We all have one or two of those where we fired off an email in the sake of time, or maybe we were upset about something and you send it off and you're like, oh, maybe you'd, and if you don't click on send quickly, it's out there, and then you have a different problem. So one of the things, I talked about was, we work. A lot of my friends who don't work in education will say, oh, you can't take your work home with you. And I said, well, it's tough when you're working with kids. You care about kids. We care about teachers. It's a people business that is full of emotion and passion. And when email is great for certain pieces of communication and to resolve certain issues, but sometimes it backfires a little bit. So I talked with parents a little bit about, like, I'm not telling anyone not to be upset. I'm not telling anyone to not be passionate about it. These are your kids. And of course you love them and you want them to get what they need to be successful in the classroom. The better our communication can be between home and the school, the faster we're going to be able to get to a resolution for your child. So the key there with using AI is you can tell it, I'm very angry about such and such situation. My child felt this way and I'm very upset. This is ridiculous. Help me write an email that's nicer to my child's teacher so we can fix this situation. It spits out the email. You then copy paste it into your draft box and you personalize it. You make sure it speaks with your voice, right? And then that communication goes to the teacher. And I would say the same thing to the teacher. Instead of firing off an email that before you really think through, or you over maybe explaining certain things, you can run it through AI and ask it to check the tone and make sure that it's concise and doesn't need to be as long. So it's a great tool for both, users, to make sure that we're communicating clearly, we're staying specific, we make sure that we're getting to the root of what the issue is. And then the most important thing is that we're helping kids, that we're making sure that whatever the issue is, it needs to be resolved. Everybody's doing the best that they can and their part to resolve it. And, communication, it's funny, we're talking about AI, and this has been my job for just over a year. And I talk a lot about communication. And I think AI is one of these tools that can help us communicate better. And I think with email especially, to make sure that we're getting to the root of what those problems are.
Yeah, I would say that's not just for teachers and parents. I think that's for everyone.
Yep.
When we send a board member, if you want to send an email, excuse me, an email out, check the tone.
Absolutely. Social media posts, it's a great thing to vet those as well. We're everyone's working harder. Everyone, we get tired and maybe you say something inartfully, and so this is a great way to, force yourself to kind of pump the brakes and then check to make sure that it's saying not just what you want it to say, but saying it in a way and that you want it to be said. And that tone is making sure that you're bringing people together, I think is really important.
Let me go back because you talked about how you set different guidelines for different grades. Just briefly give an overview of how, we do that with curriculum as well.
Absolutely.
How did you start, what does it look like in some of the grade levels? And did they get more and more use of AI as they go up in the chain?
Sure. So we started last year, and I was telling you a little bit of the background. My previous job was Department Chair of Social Studies and Media, and we had the initial version of the guidelines were for our high school social studies teachers as ChatGPT launched, trying to navigate some of the early AI detection tools from turnitin.com, which is a great product that we've used to check for plagiarism. And then as I moved into this role, we started the 23-24 school year with secondary guidance because we knew those were the students that had access to the different Gen AI tools and were going to be using them. So we formed guidance for the teachers and staff, which had some information in there about how to use these tools, which ones were appropriate, and also when to, how to use the AI detection tool and turn it in, and some early versions of how to cite the use of AI and teach kids how to cite it, AI tools. And then the student guidance was basically not just about AI, but about all technology. And that way that they also knew how to cite information, and they knew that we knew, and we wanted to work together and kind of begin that conversation with students. I think it's so important. I talked before about having meeting with students and talking about. I was in a classroom yesterday, our cybersecurity class at the high school, talking about phishing emails. We talked about AI as well. And, I think that that's so important. So that's how we started with last year, was with 7 to 12. And then we used the AI working groups to talk about what would guidelines look like for K-4, what would guidelines look like for 5-6. And out of those meetings, we were able to open up this year with guidelines for all teachers and staff, K to 12, and all students, grades 5 through 12. We decided as part of our working group process that K to 4 students really shouldn't be using AI. We're in the process, we're working with our media specialists looking at AI literacy along that match up with our privacy, security lessons that we do with 3rd and 4th grade, which are phenomenal, teaching kids about why passwords are important, why not to give too much of your information out. So looking at those opportunities, maybe isolated situations where teachers would use a Gen AI tool to maybe futurecast about climate change or certain historical events or science and things of that nature. And then in the 5th and 6th grade, which is our upper elementary, but kind of in that middle school lane, where we're going to look at our tech classes, more in media as well, and some of our electives, and then some of our core classes as well, where are there units, are there lessons within units where there are opportunities for us to open the door, crack the door open a little bit. So the student guidance for 5 and 6 recognizes AI use. We've talked to some students about where the lines are with that. But we also have to be aware of the COPPA compliance issue, making sure that students who are under 13. So that's kind of an interesting place that we have to be very careful, but before you open the floodgates on that. When we get to grade 7 to 12, that's where we have more robust understanding of not just that it's there and we know about it and here's what the use pieces are, but we also established an AI use scale with stoplight that I know we talked a little bit about as well, where everything from no AI use, level 0, to AI powered use, which is really important. So, and we actually I wrote a grant with our great East Brunswick Education Foundation, great local education foundation. They've financed a lot of different grants for me over the years, and some of my ideas over the years have been like, oh, he wants what? Like how many computers or TVs and things? And so I came to them with these ideas for the use scale to have magnets in every classroom in the junior high and our high school, with a second magnet where we can move the EB Bear over which area the stoplight is appropriate for use. So really excited for those to be arriving shortly and get them in the classroom. So in real time, right now that some teachers are using it, and we're working on getting it more use. That's a great tool.
I think we have a copy of that stoplight
that we can put up.
Yeah, we can put up.
Absolutely, and it's available on our the EBPS AI Center. If you type that into Google, you can go on and see all of our guidelines and resources and the stoplight as well. So that was a little bit of a long answer, but at the same, there's a lot of work that went into that. And, when we talk to students this year, we're forming next gen AI teams at our junior high and our high school to bring more students into the conversation so that we make sure that, we're looking at all these aspects from an academic standpoint, but also the idea of potentially a digital student code of conduct so that students have that seat at the table. And we're doing the best thing that we can to support staff, students, teachers, parents, all stakeholders.
So I would imagine everyone likes at least knowing what the rules are.
Oh, yeah.
Like that stoplight.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I can't cross this line.
Mm-hmm.
This one I can use AI almost at will. So I think that probably gives everyone, teachers, students, and even parents, okay, here's the rules. This is what I have to do. Makes it a little bit easier than just not having any rules, I guess.
Yeah, that was the biggest piece of feedback that we got from students and staff last year. We, like I said, we had the working groups. I went and talked with teachers, and I have the privilege of observing teachers K through 12 and all the subject areas. So, talked with a lot of folks about this. And the end of the year surveys from staff and students, the same thread and the same theme came out from both of those surveys was, what are the rules? We need clarification about what the rules are. So that's where the updated versions of the guidance for this year were really important. And that the AIU scale, that stoplight, was another tool that teachers and students could use to make sure that we're staying within the defined areas of the lines. And if we're not sure about something, one of the biggest things it says in those guidance documents, and that I encourage people, is just to ask your teacher. That's the biggest thing we need to do, is make sure we're communicating and asking questions, not, before we do something, not just after the fact. I think that's really critical.
All right, we've covered a lot of different areas, and I love some of the things that you've done. What are some of your final thoughts, just giving us a little overview of what you thought was useful? I mean, I said to you that you can agree with me, which would be a good thing, I think. But I think having someone as a point person on that probably helps keep things going. Absolutely.
I think that, like I said, I'm feel very privileged that the district created this position. They had the vision to see that, that Gen AI is here to stay, that it wasn't going to be a fad. It wasn't going to be something that was here one day and gone the next day. This is going to continue to be, it's more in our phones. It's more in all the technology. And really, it's been around for a while. AI itself, Siri, Alexa, I don't want to start setting off buzzers of different tools in here. But, those things have been around for a long time. The app Shazam, when you're walking through a CVS, you hit the button and you're like, oh, what song is this? And after 5 seconds, it tells you what song it is. So we've had AI tools embedded into, different technology pieces for years and years. The Gen AI piece is what is so new. The fact that it can create something, and it, that's the piece that I think has created some, some apprehension. Because of that, I do think it's important that districts have a point person. And like I said, I've been very lucky that this position was created, and I've been, given the opportunity to lead this. But it's a team effort. I always want to make sure that I say that it's a team effort. It's not just me. This is everybody working together. It's really important that we do that, and that regardless of what district you're talking about, that you do that. But I do think that if you have somebody on staff who's passionate about it, that you can make the point person, I think that's great. But I think that that's really important. Otherwise, it's going to get lost in all the many priorities that we have. Schools have, districts, school boards have 10 or 12 number one priorities, and they're all important. So if you don't have a point person, it tends to get kind of lost in the sauce, as it were.
All right, and so and I guess create a collaborative effort.
Yeah, I think that you have to, I think a team
Framework.
approach. Yeah, you have to have a collaborative approach, or like I said, what you want to call committees or working groups, power teams. I think that those are things that are important. Get the right people to the table, not just everybody who's usually on the committees, but people who may be a little skeptical but are open-minded. That's really important. I think, one of the big things with AI, I always say, especially when it's generating content-based things that are, specific to content in any subject area, trust but verify is a phrase. I was a history guy before I moved over to technology, and that was a phrase that was common, President Reagan during the Cold War, trust but verify. Anytime AI generates content, you want to make sure you trust but verify, make sure it speaks with your own voice. I think that's really important. Don't just copy paste that email or that phrase or anything. You want to make sure you take a few seconds to edit it and make sure that it speaks with your voice. I think that, forming guidelines, we've talked a little bit about this, during this session, but when we first met a month or so ago, about, there's a big push. Well, we need policy. My way that I look at it is, I think guidelines are going to lead us to policy. We're still very early in this revolution that's happening. And I think that guidelines that support current policy, whether it's academic integrity and other things, I think that that's going to give us the space to learn what we don't know yet, while also, enforcing academic integrity, which is really important, supporting the needs of all learners. I think that we're going to get to a place where we're ready for policy, but I think that guidelines are going to be the bridge to policy. And I think that if districts haven't considered doing that yet, I think that's a really important place to start.
Okay. I think you covered almost everything, as much as we can cover. Actually, we could probably go on a few hours on this one.
Yeah.
But I do think it's good that you embrace it and say, how are we going to make it work? And I think that's a lesson for a lot of the districts there, is to look at it as a tool. Don't be afraid of it. There are issues, and you said trust and verify, and I think that's an important thing. But so I'd like to thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great, and thanks for everybody tuning in.
Yep, and I hope you enjoyed this edition of Education Matters.
Thank you.